You've been lied to about peace. They told you it comes from silence, from the right mattress, from escaping your thoughts. But if that were true, why do you lay in bed with your eyes closed and your mind wide open? Why does your body feel tired but your thoughts keep running in circles? Why does the stillness outside feel so loud inside? The truth is, peace doesn't come from forcing your mind to shut up. It comes from seeing your thoughts for what they really are. Not facts, not reality, just passing clouds in an open sky. Buddhist wisdom teaches something most people never hear in their lifetime. That your thoughts are not you, your worries are not real, and sleep isn't something you win, it's something you fall into when you let go. For centuries, monks have trained their minds to be still, not by fighting their thoughts, but by understanding a powerful truth: emptiness. Not a cold, scary emptiness, but a quiet one, a freeing one where you realize anything you're worried about is as solid as it seems. Tonight, you'll learn how to see through your thoughts, like sunlight shining through mist. You'll feel your body relax, your mind slow down, and something deep inside you will shift. This isn't just another voice telling you to breathe and count backwards. This is ancient medicine for your restless mind. This is 3+ hours of Buddhist wisdom to melt the tension you didn't even know you were holding. By the end of this, you won't just be sleeping, you'll be still, at peace, whole. Are you ready to let go? Let's begin. You're here now. The light is low, the world is quiet. But your mind? Still busy. Thoughts rising like steam. Regrets, what-ifs, to-dos you didn't finish. Fears you never said out loud. You're not alone. Many people feel it, especially at night. When there's nothing to distract us, we meet the mind face to face. But tonight will be different. Because what you're about to hear holds a kind of medicine that doesn't fight the thoughts. It makes them fall apart. Not with effort, not with control, but through understanding. Emptiness is one of those words people think they understand, like silence or nothingness, but in Buddhism, it means something far deeper. Something that can gently but completely shift the way you relate to your mind, especially when you're lying awake in the dark. In Sanskrit, it's called shunyata. At first, it might sound sad. Emptiness, isn't that loneliness? A void? But the emptiness taught by the Buddha is not the absence of meaning, it's the absence of solid, unchangeable identity in anything at all. And that is exactly where freedom begins. Let's look at a restless thought, one of those tight, nagging ones. I messed up. I'll never get it right. That thought feels real, heavy, sticky, as if it's made of something. It has a voice, a feeling in your chest. It creates a whole emotional world. But what is it, really? It's not a thing. It can't be held. It's not outside you. It arises in the mind, then fades, only to be replaced by another. The thought appears because of memory, tension, self-image, fatigue, conditions. And when those conditions change, the thought changes too. Emptiness is the understanding that nothing stands alone. No thought, no emotion, no belief arises by itself. Everything comes from something. Everything depends on something. And that includes your anxiety. The stories that play in your head at night about failure, rejection, uncertainty are not solid truths. They're not you. They're constructions. Little films projected in your awareness. When you see this, when you really see it, the grip of those thoughts loosens. You stop needing to fight them. You simply see them, and they dissolve. There is nothing to push away, because there is nothing to hold on to. Your body begins to relax the moment the mind stops clinging. But here's the thing. We don't cling because we want to suffer. We cling because we believe these thoughts are protecting us. that worrying will prepare us, that overthinking will solve something, that being hard on ourselves will make us better. It never does. The understanding of shunyata reveals that even the self you think you are, the one lying there, worrying, overanalyzing, aching for control, is not fixed. Your identity is also a process, shaped by memories, habits, fears, and dreams. And this too shifts. You're not the same you were 5 years ago, even yesterday. So why believe the voice in your head when it says, "This is just the way I am"? It's not. When you see that, when you let go of that need to be a certain way or get everything right, your mind finds space. Thoughts still come, but they don't stick, like writing on water, there and gone. At night, the mind often brings its loudest worries. It thinks now is the time to solve them all. But if you were to ask your mind, "Where are these thoughts coming from?" it wouldn't be able to answer. Not truly. It would keep redirecting, looping, because the nature of thoughts is movement. That's all they are, motion. Emptiness doesn't mean we deny what we feel. It means we stop solidifying it. We stop turning waves into walls. The sadness, it's real but it moves. The fear, also real but not permanent. The guilt, yes, it's there, but it's not the whole truth of who you are. This shift in seeing this deep, quiet clarity has the power to change everything. It doesn't just give you peace in the moment. It changes the entire way you relate to your experience. Even your body knows this. When your mind tightens, your breath shortens, your jaw clenches, the chest tightens. Your body reacts to the illusion that the thought is a threat. But once the mind sees the thought for what it is, a passing echo, not a monster, the body lets go. And with that release, sleep becomes possible. Not because you forced it, but because there's nothing left trying to stay awake. Let's go deeper. There's a famous teaching in Buddhism called the Two Truths. It explains that we live with two kinds of reality: conventional truth and ultimate truth. Conventional truth is, I'm a person. I have a name. I'm lying in bed right now, thinking. Ultimate truth is, all these labels, all these experiences are temporary constructions like sandcastles. Both are valid. But knowing ultimate truth is what liberates us from suffering. So when a stressful thought arises, I'm not doing enough, they don't care about me, what if I fail? You can hold it with both truths. You can acknowledge the feeling without letting it control you. You can say, yes, this thought is here, but it's not solid, it's not forever, it's just passing through. This is how you start to disarm the mind, gently. There's a line from the Zen tradition: thoughts are visitors. Let them come and go, just don't serve them tea. Emptiness doesn't kill thought, it makes it weightless. That's why this isn't about becoming thoughtless or blank. It's about recognizing the true nature of mind, clear, open, and aware, with thoughts passing like weather across the sky. And here's something important. This insight doesn't require you to be a monk. You don't have to renounce the world or memorize ancient texts. You only need to see clearly. That's what mindfulness is. Seeing with understanding. In the early Buddhist texts, the Buddha compared thoughts to mirages, like heat waves on a road. They look real, but when you try to hold them, there's nothing there. The suffering begins when we chase them, trying to fix, solve, control. But if you just observe, if you just sit quietly with awareness, a strange thing happens. The thoughts start losing their grip. Not because they went away, but because your belief in them did. Belief is what gives them power. This is why Buddhist meditation isn't about doing something to your thoughts, it's about looking at them until the illusion fades, noticing their shape, their tone, their origin, without jumping in, like watching leaves float down a stream instead of trying to grab them all. So, how do you bring this into your night? When you lie in bed, instead of chasing peace, just become aware, gently. Feel the breath. Notice the thoughts. Don't try to stop them. Just notice. And then silently ask, what is this thought made of? That question alone can cut through a mountain of worry, because when you really look, you'll find there's nothing there, just energy, just patterns. Your nervous system will feel this shift. The body listens to the mind. When the mind relaxes its grip, the body follows. Your breath gets deeper, the muscles soften, your heartbeat slows. And slowly, you're drawn into rest not as an escape, but as a return to natural stillness. You're not pushing thoughts away, you're just seeing them clearly. This kind of seeing doesn't get old, it deepens. Each night, the mind may bring new stories, but each time, you'll meet them with a little more space, a little more wisdom. Noticing the space between the thoughts, the silence beneath them, the awareness that's always present, even when the thoughts are loud. That awareness is not empty in a sad way. It's empty like a wide-open sky, vast, clear, peaceful. And it's always here, right now. You don't need to create it. You only need to notice it. And here's something you may not expect. The more you practice this, the less afraid you become, just at night, but in life. Because you've seen the truth, that thoughts are not rulers. Feelings are not facts. You are not your anxiety. You are the space that holds it all. Even dreams start to change. When your waking mind understands emptiness, your dream mind begins to loosen too. The mind doesn't need to process unprocessed stress in the same way. Sleep becomes clearer, lighter, more healing. You begin to trust sleep again, and not as a goal to achieve, but as a natural rhythm, a release. This shift is quiet, but it's powerful, because it breaks the oldest habit we have, believing that peace comes from fixing everything out there. Peace comes from seeing clearly in here. Tonight, as you lie down, let this truth rest with you. No thought is permanent, no fear is final, and nothing in your mind has more power than your awareness of it. You are already spacious, already free, already still. Rest in that. Let go, and let the emptiness carry you. You've just seen thoughts dissolve when you stop believing they're solid. How the weight you carry in your head doesn't belong to you the way you thought it did. And in that seeing, you felt its stillness. But what if that stillness didn't have to stop there? What if sleep wasn't just a break from life, but part of the path itself? The Buddha didn't ignore rest. He didn't treat sleep like a pause between practice. For him, and for those who followed his teachings, rest was not an escape, it was a continuation. The same awareness that sees through the illusion of thought can also transform the way we fall asleep, the way we lie in bed, the way we enter the space between waking and dreaming. This isn't about meditation instead of sleep, it's about letting meditation become sleep. And that begins with the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the Buddha's great discourse on mindfulness. It lays out the foundations for deep awareness. Not awareness in the abstract, but in the most human ways possible. Through the body, through feeling, through the mind, and through what's true. For centuries, Buddhist practitioners have turned to these foundations, not just during sitting meditation, but in every moment of their lives, including the hours between sunset and sleep. Because the truth is, how we fall asleep matters. When the mind is scattered, sleep becomes shallow. When the heart is heavy, dreams become dense. But when mindfulness is present, the boundary between practice and rest dissolves. Awareness doesn't have to stop just because the day does. In fact, that's when it becomes most powerful, because the filters drop, the masks fall. All that's left is what's real. The first foundation is the body. In bed, this is where your mindfulness begins. Not in the head, not in thoughts, in sensation, in contact, in how the blanket touches your skin. in the rhythm of your breath moving in and out naturally. You don't have to breathe differently. You only have to feel it, follow it. Let the body tell you what's true. If there is tightness, don't resist it. If there's warmth, rest in it. Scan slowly, not with control, but with kindness. Start from the toes, noticing, not labeling. Just letting each part of you know, I'm here. This kind of attention isn't mental, it's grounding. It makes your body feel safe enough to release. The nervous system softens when it feels seen, and the body, no matter how tired, is always listening. The second foundation is feeling, not emotion, but the subtle tone of each moment. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, without judgment. As you lie down, you may notice pleasure in the softness of your pillow, or discomfort in your back, or a numbness that doesn't ask for attention. The point isn't to change anything. It's to know what's present. Knowing feeling tones in real time trains the mind to stop reacting blindly. The discomfort isn't a threat. The pleasure isn't a trap. Each sensation is part of a changing field. Noticing this changes your relationship to rest. You no longer chase sleep, you allow it. Then there's the third foundation, the mind. Noticing the state you're in. Is the mind contracted or open? Dull or sharp? Restless or relaxed? You don't fix it. You don't analyze it. You observe it the same way you'd watch a candle flicker. Noticing when the flame steadies. Noticing when it leans. This allows sleep to arrive without resistance. You are not your mind state. You are the one who sees it. This simple truth turns even the busiest mental activity into something workable. No need to clear your mind before bed. You're not here to be empty. You're here to be aware. And then comes the fourth foundation, Dhamma's mental patterns, themes, truths. These include the hindrances that often show up most strongly at night: desire, aversion, restlessness, sloth, doubt. Noticing which ones are present gives you space. It lets you see, restlessness is here. Not I am restless. Just, this is what's arising now. This shift is everything. It's the difference between drowning in your thoughts and floating above them. You're no longer trying to be peaceful. You're simply meeting what's here with clarity, and that is peace. These four foundations aren't meant to be forced. They're reminders, gentle invitations. When lying in bed, instead of getting caught in looping thoughts, return to one of the four. Ask, where's my attention? What's my body feeling? What's the tone? Is there grasping? Is there ease? This isn't control. It's surrender with awareness. And it leads to a kind of rest that doesn't depend on the absence of thought. It doesn't even depend on falling asleep quickly. The depth comes from how present you are as sleep arrives. Most people see sleep as nothing. But in Buddhist practice, it's far from that. It's a state of change, of letting go, of softening identity. Your usual sense of me starts to fade. The boundaries blur, the mind unwinds. In that process, you meet something that's not sleep and not wakefulness, a transitional space. This is where awareness can stay. Not as effort, not as watching, as resting in presence. The Tibetan tradition calls it the clear light of sleep, a state where consciousness is not distracted, not split, just open. This is available to Anyoninot, just monks or yogis. It starts with trust. Trust that you don't have to force rest, that your awareness can hold the process without grabbing it, that there's a stillness even in transition. To sleep like a Buddha doesn't mean being perfect. It doesn't mean always feeling calm. It means meeting the edge of night with wisdom, with honesty, with attention, without trying to run away from what the moment holds. And it continues as sleep deepens. The habits of mind you bring into rest shape the quality of it. If you carry judgment, the dreams reflect it. If you carry resistance, the body doesn't fully release. But if you bring awareness, even loosely, even softly, something changes. You don't fall asleep unconsciously. You transition with care. Over time, this creates a different relationship with the night. Sleep isn't a battle. It's not something you succeed or fail at. It becomes an extension of practice, a field where stillness matures, where patterns show themselves, where the self gently unravels. This practice is quiet, invisible, but it's transformative. And the reason it works is simple. It's aligned with how things truly are. Sleep is impermanent. Thought is impermanent. Identity is impermanent. The body is impermanent. To rest deeply, you have to stop pretending they're not. When you let these truths in, not as philosophy, but as lived experience, something inside you stops clinging, and that unclenching allows true rest, not just physical, but spiritual. Deep, regenerative rest. This also reshapes how you wake. When mindfulness is present at sleep's edge, it echoes into morning. You wake with more space, more clarity, more kindness. The momentum of awareness continues. You feel less caught in stories, less tangled in thought, because you've practiced letting go, not once, but every night. This isn't about adding a new ritual, it's about bringing depth to what already happens. You're already lying down, already closing your eyes. The invitation is to meet that process with presence, with honesty, with curiosity. Over time, the bed becomes a place of retreat, not escape, but return. A return to what's essential, what's real, what's alive in you, even in stillness. And this shows up in subtle ways, in how you respond to stress the next day, in how your body feels after waking, in how you relate to thought not as a trap, but as passing weather. That shift is not dramatic, but it's powerful, because it touches everything. This is the kind of peace that doesn't leave when life gets loud, because it wasn't built on silence, it was built on seeing. To sleep like a Buddha is to let the night become your teacher, to listen, to soften, to rest not just because you're tired, but because you trust the wisdom that arises in stillness. No need to search for peace. You are resting in it now, and the more you recognize that, the deeper you go, not into unconsciousness, but into truth. Let the breath guide you. Let the body hold you. Let awareness stay not as watcher, but as presence, as silence, as space. Nothing more is needed. You're already home. The body is still. The breath is slow. Awareness has softened its edges. What was once noise has turned to silence. Thought no longer commands the room. And in this space, something else begins to open, not the end of consciousness, but a new doorway. You're not gone. You're just shifting. Sleep doesn't erase the mind. It reveals it. Everything you've practiced in stillness now enters a deeper field, where logic dissolves, where stories rearrange themselves, where the subconscious speaks in symbols and emotions you never gave voice to during the day. But this world, this space where dreams unfold, is not random. It's not chaos. It holds patterns. It reflects you. And in Buddhist tradition, it's a sacred ground for transformation. Yogacara, one of the profound schools of Mahayana Buddhism, teaches that all experience is mind, not just what we think while awake, but what we perceive, project, and react to even in our dreams. According to Yogacara, what you call reality is a display of consciousness itself. That includes the night. That includes the dream. And what happens there isn't separate from who you are. This matters because the mind doesn't stop creating just because the body lies down. In fact, some of its most creative and karmic activity happens after you've surrendered the day. The teachings say that dreams are not illusions to be dismissed. They are mirrors, they are messengers, and when met with awareness, they become medicine. Dream yoga is not about control. It's not about having fun inside your dreams or escaping from reality. It's about learning to recognize the dream as dream while it's happening, to bring lucidity into that space. Not just to manipulate it, but to understand it. To meet it with the same mindfulness you bring to breath. To let it show you what's been hidden. The subconscious is not the enemy, but it is layered. Years of impressions, attachments, aversions, unresolved fearsful of it lives below the surface. And during sleep, those layers move. They rise, they express themselves. Dream yoga teaches that these movements are not random. They are karmic ripples, and awareness inside the dream can transform them. In lucid dream practice, the first step is remembering. The more present you are during the day, the more likely you are to wake up inside a dream. This is because the mind that recognizes dreaming is the same mind that recognizes impermanence. It sees patterns. It sees the unreal as unreal. And this capacity grows with mindfulness. So daytime practice is essential. The way you observe thoughts while awake is the same way you learn to observe them while asleep. The boundary isn't as solid as we think. When you cultivate present moment awareness throughout the day, checking in, noticing the breath, questioning assumptions, you're training the mind to stay aware even when the body sleeps. There's also the practice of reflection before bed. Before sleep, recall your day with honesty, not judgment, clarity. Where did the mind tighten? What emotional residue is still there? What was left unresolved? When you do this gently, you give the subconscious fewer reasons to push those patterns into dream. You're not suppressing, you're acknowledging, and acknowledgement purifies. Then, as you fall asleep, the practice deepens. Set the intention to remain aware. This isn't mental effort, it's a soft resolve. A whisper to the mind, I will recognize the dream. You don't need to force anything. This isn't about control, it's about creating the conditions for lucidity to arise naturally. When lucidity begins, when you find yourself dreaming and know it, you don't have to rush. You don't have to do anything. Just rest in that knowing. Let the dream continue. Watch what the mind creates. And see it not as real, but as projection. The people, the places, the fears, the desires, each one is part of your own consciousness. When you realize this fully, even inside a dream, transformation begins. Karmic patterns can unwind in dreams. You may find yourself reliving old situations, this time with awareness. You may meet people who trigger strong emotion, this time with compassion. You may face fears, this time without running. In dream yoga, the goal isn't to change the dream. It's to wake up inside it, to hold it in stillness, and to let your own wisdom digest it. This digestion doesn't come from analysis. It comes from direct experience. Seeing clearly in the dream space allows emotions to discharge, stories to release. The body may even feel lighter in the morning, not just from physical rest, but because something deeper was let go. Some dreams are peaceful, some are disturbing, both are useful. A disturbing dream isn't failure, it's a teaching. It shows you what's still held, what's still feared, what still clung to. And when you meet that with awareness, even if only briefly, it changes. The pattern loses momentum. This is karmic clearing, not in a mystical sense, but in a deeply psychological one. The habits of mind that cause suffering don't just play out while awake. They show themselves in the symbolic language of sleep. And when you stop reacting, when you bring attention without grasping, those habits weaken. Over time, this changes how you sleep. Lucid or not, dreams become less reactive. The emotional charge softens, the mind becomes less chaotic. The content may still arise, but it doesn't shake you the same way. This is purification, not by suppression, but by insight. And there's something more. Dream yoga teaches that sleep is a rehearsal for death. Not in a dark way, but in a profound one. Every night, the sense of self dissolves. The body is left behind. Consciousness enters unknown territory. This is similar to the process of dying. Learning to stay aware during sleep prepares the mind to stay aware during the biggest transition of all. If you can recognize dream as dream, you can recognize illusion as illusion. You can move through fear, through uncertainty, with clarity, with grace. This also means that how you wake matters. When you open your eyes, the practice doesn't end. Ask yourself, what was just present? Not trying to remember everything, just making contact with the tail end of the experience. The more gently you wake, the more of the dream you carry into reflection, and the more insight you gain from it. Keep a journal. Write without editing. Let the symbols speak. You don't need to interpret everything. Just notice. Over time, patterns emerge. You'll start to see how your inner world speaks when you're not filtering it, and you'll see how your awareness is learning to stay, to rest, to return. This isn't about mastering sleep. It's about softening into awareness, no matter what state you're in. Yogacara teaches that the line between dream and waking life is thinner than we think. Both are projections of mind. Both can be met with wisdom. The mind that wakes up in sleep is the same mind that wakes up in life. The benefits of this are quiet but deep. You feel more at ease with uncertainty, less controlled by fear, less identified with the drama of thoughts. Because you've seen what it's like to watch the show without believing it. This is freedom not in theory, but in lived experience. Even if lucidity doesn't happen every night, the practice continues. Every effort made to stay present during sleep supports presence during the day. The boundary dissolves. Rest becomes part of the path. The hours of night are no longer a break from awareness, but a field for it. This is how healing happens. Not all at once, not with effort, but through the gentle, consistent willingness to stay close, to be with what's arising, to trust the wisdom already present in the mind itself. Yogacara doesn't ask you to fix your dreams. It invites you to see them, to bow to them, to meet even the strangest images with reverence, because nothing arises without meaning and nothing lasts. Awareness is the thread. Through waking, through sleeping, through all transitions. You're not doing this to achieve anything. You're doing this to see clearly, to let go, to live in alignment with truth even when the body is still and the world has gone quiet. So tonight, as you enter sleep, take this knowing with you. Let awareness travel with you. Let it rest in the spaces in between. No pressure, no force, just presence. Everything you need is already here. You don't need to control, you only need to see. And when you do, even your dreams become sacred. Even the darkest night becomes light. And your rest becomes more than rest, it becomes freedom. The deeper you go into awareness, the more subtle the mind becomes. Even dreams, once loud and chaotic, start to quiet when seen clearly. But sometimes, what lingers isn't thought or story, it's feeling. Tightness in the heart, bitterness that didn't get voiced, sadness with nowhere to go. These don't always show up in dreams. They show up in tone, the mood you carry into the night. And that tone shapes your rest. What the body can release, the heart often holds. And it's here, in this quiet space before sleep, that one of the most powerful practices unfolds. Not intellectual, not analytical, but deeply human. In Buddhist teachings, there are 4 qualities that can transform the entire landscape of your inner world. Not by force, not by trying to be nice, but by returning to what the heart already knows. These four are called the Brahma Viharas, the divine abodes. They are not beliefs, they are mental trainings. And when practiced before sleep, they become purification. Not of sin or guilt, but of heaviness, of mental noise, of emotional friction. Each night, your mind takes with it everything unprocessed. That last conversation, that resentment, that moment you wished had gone differently. If left unexamined, these become knots. Knots that tighten in the subconscious, knots that disturb rest. But when met with these four immeasurables, those knots begin to soften. You enter the night not carrying, but cleansing. The first quality is loving kindness. Not romantic, not sentimental, but a quiet wish for the well-being of self and others. To practice this is not to feel warmth automatically. It's to intentionally generate a phrase, a thought, a vibration that says, "May you be safe, may you be happy, may you rest in ease." This is not about forcing love. It's about choosing goodwill, even when emotion is missing. You start with yourself, not because self-love is more important, but because it's often the most neglected. You offer the words inward, slowly, even if they feel distant, especially if they do. May I be peaceful. May I release the tension I'm holding. May I rest fully tonight. Then you widen. Think of someone close, a friend, a teacher, a sibling. Offer the same wish, not with a need to fix, just a recognition of shared humanity. May you feel at ease. May you sleep without fear. May you be free from suffering. Loving kindness opens the channel of the heart. It doesn't erase pain. It changes how you hold it. You begin to see that even your rest affects others, that a peaceful heart sleeps not only better, but lighter. It doesn't cling, it doesn't resent, it softens. The second quality is compassion. This is the wish to be free from suffering, not just for yourself, but for all. While loving kindness says, "May you be happy," compassion says, "May your pain ease." It's rooted in connection, in the courage to feel. Before sleep, this means turning toward what still hurts, not to wallow, but to acknowledge. What were you avoiding today? What sadness did you silence? Who do you know that's hurting, even if they never said it? Compassion doesn't demand you solve anything. It simply asks you not to look away. You don't need to fix the world in your mind. You only need to see it clearly and respond with care. To say gently, "I see this pain. May it ease. For me, for you, for all beings." This touches something deep. It allows the protective armor to drop. The kind you've worn all day without knowing it. The kind that keeps you on guard, even while lying down. Compassion breaks through that. It tells the heart it's okay to feel, you're allowed to care, and you don't have to carry it all alone. As that message settles, sleep becomes safer, because the body no longer needs to defend. The nervous system receives a signal that it can let go. The third quality is empathetic joy. This one is often overlooked, but it is just as powerful. It's the ability to celebrate without comparison, to feel glad for others' happiness, their success, their ease, without needing it to be your own. At night, this means releasing the subtle competition that often goes unspoken, the tension from scrolling through images of other people's lives, the pressure of measuring your worth against someone else's, the tightness of not enough. Empathetic joy trains the mind to say, "I'm glad you are well. I'm happy you're thriving. I rejoice in your joy." This frees the mind from envy, from scarcity, from that never-ending loop of, "I should be further ahead." The more you practice this, the more your rest is not disturbed by craving. You don't dream of what's missing. You sleep in what's here. Empathetic joy also means rejoicing in your own joy without guilt. Acknowledge the good, the breath that flowed easier today, the moment you smiled, the fact that you're here, practicing, even if it's hard, that matters. Let the heart feel it. This quality infuses the night with a sense of quiet satisfaction, not from achieving, but from being, from seeing the beauty in ordinary things. The final quality is equanimity. This is the deep stability of mind that sees clearly without being shaken. It is not cold detachment, it is presence without bias. It is a mind that doesn't cling to pleasure or resist pain. It knows that all things rise and fall, and it trusts that truth. Before sleep, equanimity becomes a gentle letting go of control. The plans that didn't work out, the words that didn't land right, the outcomes you didn't get to shape. Equanimity says, this too is part of the path. May I meet it with balance. This isn't resignation, it's clarity. The kind that allows you to release the need for certainty, the kind that lets the body stop bracing for what might go wrong. You begin to rest not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer resisting what is. Equanimity also protects the heart. It keeps compassion from becoming burnout, loving kindness from becoming attachment, joy from becoming craving. It holds all the other immeasurables in balance, a quiet anchor in the moving sea of the mind. When all four are practiced together, kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, the heart becomes vast, not sentimental, not performative, vast like the ocean, able to hold whatever comes and let it pass. This internal cleansing is subtle. You may not notice it all at once, but each night you practice, something clears. A layer lifts, a contraction loosens. You carry less. And that lightness affects not just your sleep, but your entire life. These four immeasurables are called boundless for a reason. They expand you, they open what was closed, they make space where the mind once tightened, they soften the boundary between self and other, between thought and presence, between wakefulness and deep, healing rest. And they do it quietly. No effort, no performance, just the willingness to feel, to offer, to release. So tonight, don't fight with your thoughts. Don't wrestle with memory. Don't try to force peace. Sit, lie down, or close your eyes and offer these qualities inward. May I be safe. May others be free. May we all rest in ease. May joy grow where pain once lived. May I hold this moment with balance. There's nothing you need to achieve, no emotion you need to feel. The power is in the offering. The practice is in the return. Let this be your final act before sleep, a quiet cleansing, a soft alignment, a silent kindness that echoes into the places words never reach. When you wake tomorrow, the world may still be what it is, but your heart will be lighter, your mind will be steadier, and something inside will know, I didn't carry it all with me, I let it go. This is the practice, this is the purification, this is peace. When the heart softens, the mind follows. The four immeasurables make space inside you, the kind that doesn't ask for more or cling to less. With a heart open to kindness and a mind quieted by presence, you begin to feel what truly lies beneath all the effort and identity that still tries to hold on. Not out of malice, but out of fear. Fear of loss, fear of change, fear of what might come if you loosen your grip. This fear, quiet as it may be, is often what keeps the body tense at night. It's the thread beneath restlessness, the hidden voice that says, what if I lose what I have? Or what if I'm not enough without all of it? These thoughts don't always come loudly. Sometimes they settle under the surface unspoken, unnamed. But they affect how you sleep, how you breathe, and how you let go. The Buddha offered a set of reflections to meet this part of the mind directly, not to scare it into surrender, but to show it the truth it already knows deep down. These are called the 5 remembrances. They are not meant to bring sadness or fear. They are reminders not of despair, but of freedom. Because once you see clearly what is not in your control, you stop trying to control it. You stop fighting reality, and in that stopping, something peaceful begins to grow. The first remembrance is that I am of the nature to grow old. Age is not something we avoid, it's something we live through. The skin changes, the muscles weaken. The body, which we often use to define ourselves, begins to shift in ways we cannot stop. Acknowledging this truth does not take away from life, it deepens it. When you go to bed knowing that this body is not forever, you hold it differently, with more care, more presence, less vanity. You are not trying to prove anything. You are resting simply in what is. The second remembrance is that I am of the nature to become ill. Health is not permanent. No matter how strong you are today, the body is vulnerable. This reflection is not meant to create fear, but to grow humility. When you realize that your strength is temporary, you stop pretending to be invincible. You stop demanding perfection from the body. You start listening more. You begin to understand that sleep, too, is not earned through force, but given through trust. Trust in this fragile body that has carried you so far. The third remembrance is that I am of the nature to die. Death is not an idea, not an event for later. It is part of your nature. This reflection can strike deeply. It touches the core of what the ego tries to avoid, but it is not meant to bring sorrow. It brings urgency, not for panic, but for presence. Knowing that you will die helps you stop wasting time pretending otherwise. You begin to see what really matters. What you carry to bed becomes lighter because you stop trying to control a future that no one can promise. The fourth remembrance is that everything I love and everyone I love are of the nature to change. They will grow old, fall ill, and die. This includes the people closest to you, your possessions, your status, and even the beliefs you once held tightly. This truth can be difficult, but it leads to a kind of love that is free from possession. You stop holding people as if they belong to you. You stop fearing change and instead begin to love more fully because you understand how precious and temporary everything really is. The fifth remembrance brings it all home. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of what I do. They are the ground I stand on. This is the mirror. In the end, what you have done, how you lived, how you treated others, how you treated yourself is what shapes your mind, your dreams, your karma. At night, when all the noise fades, this truth becomes clear. The clothes, the opinions, the achievements, all of it fades. But the way you showed up today, that remains. These 5 are not just words, they are tools. They strip away the parts of the ego that hold on out of fear. And when that gripping loosens, what's left is something quiet, not empty in a hollow way. Empty in a spacious way, where rest is not disturbed by clinging to the illusion of control. Practicing these reflections before bed is not a ritual of pessimism. It is a practice of clarity. You don't repeat them to scare yourself. You repeat them to return to reality. And in doing so, you shed the layers that prevent real rest. The mind that resists death also resists sleep. It keeps you alert, as if letting go for the night is a kind of dying. In a way, it is. The self dissolves in sleep. Identity fades. Time disappears. And this is what the ego cannot accept easily. But when you remind yourself gently, compassionately, that everything is impermanent, including you, then the grip softens. There is nothing left to defend. These remembrances help dismantle the illusion of being separate. When you accept your nature to age, fall ill, and die, you begin to see that everyone shares this nature. The lines between you and others blur. That sense of being alone in your struggles starts to fade. There's a kind of peace in knowing that everyone is walking the same path, that nothing you're afraid of is yours alone. Sleep then becomes something different, not a battle to quiet the mind, but a surrender to truth. You go to bed not chasing rest, but laying down the burdens that prevent it. The burden of needing to prove yourself, the burden of clinging to outcomes, the burden of holding tightly to people and things that were never truly in your control. This changes how you breathe at night, how you settle into your mattress, how you hold your body. You are no longer tensing against time. You are no longer trapped in resistance. Instead, you're entering the night with awareness, not of your to-do list, not of your regrets, but of what's real. That aging cannot be avoided. That illness comes with being alive. That death is not separate from life. That love means change, and that actions matter more than identity. There is a strange relief in accepting this, like removing armor you didn't know you were wearing. You start to feel the difference between self and story, between the body and the thoughts about the body, between what changes and what watches the change. This watcher, the awareness that ceases, not disturbed by impermanence. It simply notices, it bears witness, and when you sleep with that awareness intact, even partially, something begins to heal. Not on the surface, but in the deep layers. The part of you that's been exhausted by holding up the weight of a permanent self starts to rest, truly rest. Reciting the 5 remembrances aloud or silently before bed is a form of release. You speak them not to recite doctrine, but to remind the mind that it doesn't need to keep pretending. You are not invincible. You are not separate, and you don't have to keep trying to be in control. With each remembrance, the ego softens, and what rises in its place is tenderness, compassion for yourself, gratitude for the breath that's still here, reverence for the people in your life not as possessions, but as passing blessings. This makes space for honesty, for real connection, for a kind of sleep that doesn't hide from the truth but rests inside it. The pillow becomes a place of presence, the bed a space of practice, not performance practice, where the lines between waking and wisdom begin to fade. The truth is, sleep and death are not so different. Both require letting go, both require trust, and both reveal what you've been holding on to. The 5 remembrances are not about rejecting the world. They are about seeing it as it is. And when you see clearly, you stop needing so much. You stop needing to be right, or praised, or safe from all change. You become someone who can rest even when life is uncertain. And this is what makes sleep peaceful. Not the perfect room, not the perfect thoughts, but the willingness to be with things as they are, aging, changing, dying, loving, acting, letting go. This is the practice. Simple, direct, powerful. Say the words slowly. Feel them. Don't resist them. Let the truth in. Let the stories fall. Let the grip loosen. Let the self dissolve just enough to sleep in freedom. The mind begins to settle. The body has softened. You've released the weight of identity, loosened the grip of control, and gently welcomed the truths most people run from. In doing so, you've prepared the ground not just for better sleep, but for something even deeper, a meeting with transition itself. Every night, without fail, something ends, something dissolves. The story of me begins to blur, thoughts lose their edges, the senses dim, awareness detaches from the waking world. Most people never notice it. They slip past it, unconscious. But this space, this in-between, was more than just the gap between being awake and being asleep. In Tibetan teachings, it is sacred. It is a bardo. Bardo means in-between state. It refers to any transitionary passage between one experience and another. The most well-known is the bardo between death and rebirth. But that is only one kind. According to the Tibetan Book of the Dead and other Vajrayana texts, there are many bardos, and one of them happens every single night, the moment before sleep, the moment the self dissolves and another form of experience takes over. This bardo is a training ground. It mirrors death in structure, but without finality, and that makes it a powerful place to wake up. Sleep is not simply rest, it is movement through subtle states. Just as death is not the end, but a shift into new conditions, sleep too is a process of change. The transition from waking to dreaming, from dreaming to deep sleep, from sleep to waking again, each is a movement through a threshold, and each threshold reveals something about the nature of mind. The Tibetan view teaches that the mind is always in motion, always cycling through clarity and confusion, through grasping and letting go. The bardos are moments where the habitual patterns pause just enough for transformation to become possible. These are openings, and sleep is full of them. The moment you lie down and begin to fall asleep is similar to the moment of death. Your thoughts slow. Your awareness begins to withdraw from the senses. The feeling of solidity begins to shift. But if you are not mindful, you miss this. The process becomes mechanical. You drift, you fade, and awareness is lost. But when practiced with attention, this nightly bardo becomes a teaching. It allows you to observe what it means to let go, to watch how the mind resists it, to feel the fear, the grasping, the pull to stay identified. This is the same pattern that arises at the time of death, just in softer form. And by training here through sleep, you prepare for the greater letting go that will come one day. This is not meant to create anxiety. It is offered as a doorway to freedom. Because when you begin to see that death and sleep share the same structure, you stop fearing both. You stop turning away. And when fear dissolves, awareness stays. And when awareness stays, liberation becomes possible. The bardo before sleep is called the Chikai bardo. By some teachers, the moment where consciousness detaches from ordinary perception. It is subtle, a shift, not a break. If the mind is trained to remain aware as the body sleeps, it begins to see this shift, the loss of sensory input, the floating quality of thought, the gradual slide into something else. You can begin to train for this by observing the process of falling asleep, not fighting it, not trying to force lucidity, but watching, letting go without losing attention, allowing the thoughts to soften while the awareness remains. This is difficult at first. The mind wants to either hold on tightly or collapse, but with practice, a balance emerges. You learn to rest in a space that is neither sleep nor waking, a transitional field. In Tibetan terms, this is the opportunity. This is the bardo. In that moment, the mind becomes more subtle. Gross thoughts fall away. The sense of I starts to dissolve. And if you can meet that with awareness, something profound opens. The self is no longer defined by its usual roles. You're not thinking in words. You're not bound by logic. You're simply present with change itself. This trains a kind of death readiness. Not in a morbid way, but in the most compassionate way. To sleep consciously is to die consciously. And to die consciously, even in small ways, is to live without clinging. The teachings describe the bardos as having great potential. In the waking world, our habits are strong. We react quickly. We're caught in momentum. But in transitional states, the patterns loosen. There's a gap. And in that gap, you can plant new seeds. You can interrupt old tendencies. You can choose a different response. Before sleep, this might mean observing the urge to ruminate and not following it. It might mean noticing the fear of stillness and staying anyway. It might mean seeing the need to be in control and releasing it gently. This builds a kind of flexibility in the mind, a willingness to stay open, even in uncertainty. And that is exactly what is needed at the time of death, when the familiar disappears, when the mind enters unfamiliar terrain. The more you practice recognizing these micro-transitions, the more skilled you become at navigating them. You start to see that nothing in experience is permanent, that all states arise, shift, and fall away. This includes the states of sleep, dream, deep rest, waking again. All are impermanent, all are part of the same cycle. What matters is not controlling these cycles, it's how you meet them, with grasping or with clarity, with fear or with presence. This is why the Bardo teachings are not just about death. They are about living well now. They are about learning to trust the movement of life, the process of letting go, the grace of not knowing. You can apply this in every sleep cycle. As you lie down, bring attention to the breath not as a technique, but as a tether. Let the breath guide you as awareness begins to float. Don't hold it too tightly. Don't fall into dullness. Rest gently in between. As you feel sleep coming, allow yourself to observe it. Watch the edge. Watch how the sense of self starts to thin out. Let the ego rest. Let the identity fade. If thoughts come, let them come and go. You are not trying to analyze. You are simply watching the process of falling asleep as if it were a sacred event. Because it is. Over time, you'll begin to notice patterns. How certain emotions arise before sleep. How fear or resistance shows up. How letting go doesn't happen all at once, but in stages. This becomes your map, your nightly practice. Some traditions teach that falling asleep with awareness is one of the highest meditations because it prepares the mind for what truly matters. The final bardo, the one none of us will avoid. But it also prepares you for daily life. When you wake from sleep with more awareness, you step into the day with a different presence. The decisions you make are less reactive. The way you listen changes. The way you hold your experience changes. This is the gift of Bardo training. You are practicing for death, yes, but more than that, you are practicing for life. For every moment of transition, every conversation that ends, every identity that fades, every plan that doesn't work out, these are all bardos, all moments of loss, all invitations to see that what you are is not fixed. And that insight brings freedom. The body will sleep, the mind will wander, but awareness, once trained, begins to stay. It becomes your refuge, your anchor in transition, not as control but as openness, as grace. You don't have to perfect this. You don't have to succeed every night. Even one moment of awareness in the bardo before sleep plants a seed, a memory in the mind, a familiarity that will return when it's needed. So when you lie down tonight, treat the transition with reverence, not with fear, not with control, but with deep respect. You are practicing for the greatest truth. You are learning to release what was never really yours to begin with. And as you let go, you are not losing yourself. You are returning to something more spacious, something more honest, something that was always there, beneath the noise. Let sleep carry you. Let the bardo teach you. Let awareness stay. This is not the end. This is another beginning. Each night you cross a threshold, awareness softens, identity blurs. The stories you carry begin to loosen their grip. You've practiced letting go of control. You've explored the mind's transitions through bardos. You've seen how sleep mirrors the greatest of all changes. But there is one part of experience that remains constantly present, always available as an anchor: the body. While the mind spins in thoughts, the body waits. It doesn't argue, it doesn't demand answers. It speaks quietly through sensation, through tension, through breath. And most of the time, it is ignored. When sleep doesn't come, the reason often appears to be mental: stress, overthinking, restlessness. But what allows those mental patterns to grow wild is disconnection from the body. The thoughts go unchecked because awareness is floating without anchor. In early Buddhist practice, the Buddha offered a clear way to return, Kayanupassana, contemplation of the body. This isn't about judging the body, it's about knowing it, not as an idea, but as living experience. Through direct, sustained observation of the body as it is, the mind begins to quiet. The need to solve, predict, or plan begins to fade. Not because the thoughts are pushed away, but because they no longer take center stage. Kayanupassana is not a complex technique. It is the act of being with your body fully, exactly as it is, with complete attention. And this attention is not focused on form or appearance. It is grounded in feeling touch, pressure, movement, and stillness. Through this awareness, the illusion of control slowly dissolves. You begin to understand that peace doesn't arrive by managing your mind, but by resting in the direct experience of now. Body scanning, as taught in Vipassana traditions, is one way to enter this contemplation. It involves moving attention slowly, part by part, through the body. Not to find what's wrong, but to simply feel what is there. Every part is included, nothing is left out. And through this inclusive attention, something powerful happens. Fragmentation dissolves. Normally, the mind sees the body in pieces. My sore back, my tired legs, my aching head. But when you practice Kayanupassana, these pieces start to merge. You begin to experience the body not as parts, but as a continuous field of sensation. This field is always changing, rising and falling, tingling and releasing, warm and cool. And observing this change directly trains the mind in the truth of impermanence. As the mind sees this clearly, its restlessness begins to calm. Thoughts feed on resistance. When you resist tension in the body, the mind tightens. When you avoid discomfort, the thoughts multiply. But when you bring awareness to these sensations without trying to change them, they begin to move on their own. The body knows how to release. It only needs space. Body scanning works not by removing thoughts, but by shifting attention to what is more stable, the breath, the pulse, the heaviness of the limbs. Each time you place attention gently on a part of the body, you reduce identification with the thinking self. You become the observer, not the thinker. And this small shift is enough to create distance from mental noise. Kayanupassana also teaches you to stay with sensation, even when it's unpleasant. When awareness touches a part of the body that feels tight, heavy, or sore, the usual instinct is to pull away. But in this practice, you do the opposite. You stay, you observe, you feel. And what you begin to learn is that discomfort changes. Nothing stays fixed. A sharp pain becomes a dull throb. A heaviness becomes warmth. A tightness releases. You are not fixing anything. You are witnessing the body return to balance in its own way. This teaches trust. It also teaches patience. Patience is not passive. It is the willingness to remain present with what is, without forcing a different experience. And this is exactly what allows the body to rest deeply, because the nervous system feels safe when it is seen. When attention is brought to the body without judgment, the signals of stress begin to slow. This also affects how you fall asleep. When scanning the body, sleep often arrives without warning, not because you forced it, but because the mind became aligned with the rhythms of the body. The brain no longer searches for resolution. It follows the breath, it follows the feeling, and in that following, it lets go. Even when sleep doesn't come right away, this practice creates rest, deep rest, the kind that nourishes the body even in stillness, because presence, not unconsciousness, is what heals. When the mind is present in the body, even wakefulness becomes restorative. Another benefit of Kayanupassana is the development of sensitivity. Over time, you begin to feel more. Not in an overwhelming way, but in a clear way. You notice small tensions before they grow. You sense fatigue before it turns into collapse. This sensitivity allows you to respond with care, to meet your needs before they turn into suffering. You also become more attuned to how the body reacts to thought. A stressful memory creates tightness in the chest. A worry about tomorrow creates pressure in the forehead. An old resentment triggers the jaw to clench. When seen clearly, these reactions become teachers. They show you the mind-body link not as theory, but as lived truth. In this way, Kayanupassana becomes more than a sleep practice. It becomes a way of living in your body, fully, honestly, with respect. You stop treating the body like a machine. You start treating it like a friend. This relationship shifts your approach to rest. Rest is no longer something you earn, it is something you allow. You begin to feel when your body asks for stillness. You start to respond with kindness instead of avoidance. And this kindness softens everything. The practice also shows you where you're holding emotional residue. Unspoken grief might sit in the throat. Unfelt anger might tighten the fists. Unacknowledged fear might curl in the belly. By scanning slowly, these hidden impressions come to light not to overwhelm you, but to be met, felt, released. There is no need to analyze. The body doesn't need fixing, it needs presence. Awareness is what clears the residue, not words, not explanations, just being with sensation, fully as it is. This presence is not rigid, it's gentle, it moves with attention, it listens, it follows, and in following, it teaches you how to rest without abandoning yourself. As you move through the body, scanning the toes, the feet, the ankles, the calves, the knees, you start to feel more whole. Each part is included, each part is honored, and that inclusion brings peace. You don't need a goal, you don't need a result. The practice is the result. The practice is the resting. Even the breath becomes more natural. As awareness touches each area of the body, the breath adjusts. It deepens, it softens, without force, without instruction. Because the breath responds to safety, and attention is safety. Over time, Kayanupassana creates a mind that no longer runs from discomfort, that no longer chases thought as a way to escape feeling. It becomes a mind that rests where it is, that trusts the body, that knows presence is enough. This is how the monkey mind quiets, not through effort, but through returning again and again to what's here. The sensation in the fingertips, the movement in the chest, the stillness in the legs. Each moment of awareness is a thread, and together these threads weave calm. This calm is not temporary, it is trained, cultivated, built each night through steady presence. It becomes the default state, not because nothing disturbs you, but because you know how to return. You no longer fear restlessness, you no longer fight the body, you listen, you soften, you stay. And in staying, you sleep, not from exhaustion, but from peace. This is the gift of mindful body contemplation. It's not mystical, it's not abstract, it is grounded in what's real, in what's always been there, waiting for your attention. Tonight, bring your mind home. Let it move through your body like water. No resistance, no judgment, just presence. Let the scan become your path. Let each part of you be seen. Let the stillness grow from the inside. This is not a technique. This is your nature. Let it hold you. Let it carry you into sleep. The mind has traveled inward, through stillness, through sensation, through the body's subtle landscape. Awareness has begun to rest where it belongs. You've trained it to stay, not by force, but by presence. Now the body is at ease. Sleep has come. The mind has let go. But that's not the end. Every cycle of rest leads to return. What falls must rise. What dissolves must reform. And so the question is not just how you fall asleep, but how you wake. In the quiet that follows deep rest, in the silence after stillness, something else emerges. The return of consciousness, the renewal of choice, the opportunity to begin again. In Buddhist practice, waking up is never treated as routine. It's never seen as ordinary. The moment the eyes open, the breath returns to rhythm, and awareness begins to stir. There is a powerful opening. This is not just physical awakening, it's spiritual renewal. It is the daily invitation to reset not just the body but karma. Karma is often misunderstood. It's not fate, it's not punishment, it's momentum. It's the energy of intention, repeated thought, and habitual action. It shapes perception. It determines the direction of your speech, your choices, your mind. And each morning, that direction is not fixed. It can shift. The patterns of yesterday don't have to define today. The moment of waking holds a unique power. The mind is soft, the heart is open. The usual defenses have not yet been built, and that's where transformation begins. The first moments of the day matter more than we think. They are the seed from which the entire day grows. If the first thought is reactive, the day tends to follow that tone. If the first breath is rushed, the rhythm of the day often becomes hurried. But when the first experience is mindful, when attention is brought to the body, to the breath, to intention, something stabilizes. A foundation is created. And from that foundation, clarity can grow. In Tibetan and Theravada traditions alike, there are practices specifically designed for waking, not elaborate rituals, but simple gestures of presence. The first is awareness of breath. Before movement, before thought, awareness rests in the inhale and exhale. This is not forced breathing. It is simply noticing. The breath is the bridge between sleep and wakefulness. By anchoring attention here, you give the mind a calm path back into the world. Alongside the breath, awareness of posture becomes important. The way you rise from bed reflects the way you meet the world. A hurried, collapsing movement brings fragmentation. A gentle, intentional rising brings steadiness. As you sit up or stand, feel the contact with the ground. Let the body's return to verticality be an act of presence. Then comes the first thought. In many lineages, practitioners are encouraged to set an intention immediately after waking. This is not about planning or goal setting, it's about karma. What energy do you want to cultivate today? What quality of heart will guide your actions? The intention can be silent. A phrase, a word, a vow. It plants a seed, one that quietly shapes every interaction to come. Waking as renewal also means recognizing that you are not the same person who went to sleep. Something has changed. The body has shifted. The mind has softened. The stories you carried before sleep are no longer fresh, and this gives you space. You don't have to resume the same narrative. You don't have to continue yesterday's identity. There is no rule that says you must pick up the same fears, regrets, or assumptions. Each morning offers the chance to choose differently. That is freedom. In Mahayana texts, there is the teaching of beginner's mind, to meet each moment as new, not because it is unfamiliar, but because it is alive. This applies especially to mornings. You are returning to a world you know, but you can meet it with new perception. This requires awareness. It requires restraint from immediately indulging old thought patterns. Instead of reaching for distraction, bring attention inward. Feel the body. Sense the breath. Let the mind arrive slowly. This patience changes the day's momentum. Instead of being pulled by urgency, you begin with steadiness. The nervous system follows. The heart rate slows. The breath deepens. Hormonal rhythms stabilize. and all of this supports clarity. As you go about your first actions, washing, stretching, preparing food, these too become opportunities for mindful return. In Zen and early Buddhist traditions, daily life is practice. Waking is not separate from the path, it is the path. Each movement, each breath, each step holds the chance to realign. One of the most transformative aspects of seeing wakefulness as spiritual renewal is that it breaks the illusion of permanence. You see clearly that nothing from the day before was fixed. Even thoughts you believed were certain now feel distant. That anxiety that consumed you yesterday morning may be completely gone. That mood that seemed unshakable has already passed. This teaches you not to trust all passing states. It teaches you to trust what holds them, instead awareness itself. From this insight grows compassion. When you know how much you change in one night, you begin to allow others the same freedom. You stop holding people to versions of themselves they've outgrown. You stop expecting permanence in a world built on change. And this releases tension not only within you, but in your relationships. This renewal also invites accountability. If karma is shaped by intention and action, then each day is a chance to steer that direction. You can wake and choose to act from clarity, from kindness, from restraint, from generosity. This doesn't require perfection. It requires willingness to pause, to see, to respond wisely. There are practices that support this. Simple things. Before leaving your bed, take 3 mindful breaths. Place a hand on the chest. Feel the rise and fall. Offer a quiet phrase. Today, I walk with awareness. Or, today, may my actions bring peace. This is not wishful thinking. It is energetic commitment. It sets the tone, and when done consistently, it reshapes the nervous system. Walking becomes different. Speech becomes slower. Reactions are less sharp. Because the mind was prepared. It didn't rush. It didn't forget its power to choose. Even if the day unfolds with challenge, the morning practice remains a refuge. You carry it with you, a thread of stillness in a noisy world. Another important aspect of spiritual renewal is humility. The understanding that you woke not because you deserve it, but because conditions allowed it. Breath returned, mind returned. This fosters gratitude not as obligation, but as recognition. Many did not wake today. Many suffer in ways you will not know. And here you are, alive, breathing, thinking, feeling. That truth alone is a doorway to reverence. From that reverence, the mind becomes soft, the heart becomes open, and from this softness, right action is more likely to follow. That is how karma shifts, not through force, but through alignment. This also challenges the idea that awakening is a single event. In truth, awakening happens again and again. Every moment you choose presence, you wake up. Every moment you return to breath, you wake up. Every time you stop reacting and instead respond with care, you wake up. And each morning, that process begins anew. This is not something you achieve, it's something you remember. The renewal is already there. The clarity is not far, it's just waiting to be noticed. Some traditions describe the mind as a clear mirror. Overnight, it gathers dust, thoughts, emotions, sensory impressions. But the mirror itself is unchanged. Waking is the act of wiping the surface, not to create clarity but to reveal it. You can make this part of your morning, before speaking, before reaching for a device. Sit quietly, even for 1 minute. Let the dust settle. Let the mirror show you what's true. This is not discipline, it is devotion to your own clarity, to your own peace. Over time, this practice builds resilience, Because even when the day becomes difficult, you remember where you started. You remember what it feels like to begin in presence, and that memory brings you back. It also builds continuity. Sleep is no longer the end of one day and the beginning of another. It becomes part of a rhythm: inhale and exhale, death and rebirth, dissolution and return. And when seen this way, each morning becomes sacred. Not because of what you do, but because of how you arrive, mindful, clear, free. Let that be your practice. To wake, not as a task, but as a blessing. To rise, not with rush, but with grace. To speak, not with noise, but with purpose. To move, not with habit, but with awareness. This is renewal. This is how you meet the world again and again, not as the same person, but as someone always beginning. Let that beginning be filled with intention. Let your day unfold from clarity, not confusion. Let your mind rest in truth, not story. And let your life, one morning at a time, become a path of quiet awakening. As the body rises with new breath and the mind returns with clarity, a gentle strength begins to form. The intention you set in the first waking moment begins to shape the path ahead. But even with presence, even with sincerity, the world can pull. Its noise, its demands, its unpredictability, capable of unraveling the calm you cultivated. To carry stillness forward, you need something that stays with you even when thoughts waver, something that moves with breath, cuts through noise, and steadies the nervous system from within. That something is sound, not just any sound, sacred sound. In Buddhist practice, mantras have long been used not only as tools for concentration, but as medicine for the heart, mind, and body. These are not just words to be repeated, they are intentional vibrations. When spoken or chanted with awareness, they carry the power to transform internal states. The vibrations do not only stay in the voice. They travel through the nervous system, touching breath, heart rate, muscular tension, and even the brain's chemical balance. The repetition of sacred phrases can activate the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the part of your body that tells you it's safe to rest, digest, and repair. It slows the heart, lowers blood pressure, calms the breath. When activated, the body exits survival mode and re-enters equilibrium. It's this shift that supports sleep, emotional healing, and overall well-being. Mantras are designed to bring the mind into resonance with truth. In Buddhism, they are used not as magical spells, but as tools of alignment. They reflect specific qualities of the awakened mind: compassion, clarity, fearlessness, wisdom. When these sounds are repeated, the body responds. It entrains to their rhythm. It follows their tone. The mind stops grasping, thought slows, the nervous system quiets, and stillness becomes more accessible. There is scientific backing to this process. Chanting, especially with prolonged vowels and nasal resonance, stimulates the vagus nerve. This nerve links the brain to many internal organs and is deeply involved in regulating rest and recovery. When the vagus nerve is stimulated gently and repeatedly through vocal vibration, stress hormones decrease. Melatonin, the hormone associated with sleep, increases. Cortisol lowers. Heart rate variability improves. All of this supports a deeper and more stable internal state. But not all mantras are the same. Different syllables carry different effects. In Buddhist traditions, especially those practiced in Tibet, India, and parts of Southeast Asia, specific mantras are used at night, not just for devotion, but for deep calming. Their syllables are chosen for more than meaning, they are chosen for sound. One of the most well-known is the mantra Om Mani Padme Hum. This mantra invokes the qualities of compassion and wisdom embodied by Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of boundless love. The sound Om is said to purify pride and ego. Ma softens jealousy. Ni clears desire. Pad releases ignorance. Mi cuts through greed. And Hum dissolves hatred. Repeating this mantra with steady breath trains the body in a sequence of release. Each syllable, when spoken with intention, signals safety to the nervous system. Another deeply soothing mantra is Tayata Om Bekanze. Bekanze Maha Bekanze Radza Samudgate Soha. This is the medicine Buddha mantra. Its tone and rhythm are often slower, deeper, more grounding. The words are meant to bring healing not only physically but emotionally. When chanted before bed, it brings a sense of inner support. The vibration moves through the chest, down into the belly, where emotional tension often hides. It encourages softening, not just in the body, but in the inner resistance we carry unknowingly. Chanting, even silently, regulates breath. It aligns the inhale and exhale. The mind becomes interested in the sound, and distractions lose power. This makes mantras effective not just as relaxation tools, but as anchors for mindfulness. When a mantra is repeated before sleep, it replaces the usual internal chatter, the self-narratives, the mental lists, the regrets. Instead of following those, the mind is given something else to rest in, something rhythmic, something neutral, something healing. Some people worry about pronunciation. In Buddhist teaching, perfect enunciation is not the priority. Sincerity is. It is the intention behind the sound that gives it force. The mind listens to tone more than perfection. A softly whispered mantra with presence has more power than a loud chant done mechanically. Let the sound move through you. Let the breath shape it. Let your attention follow it like a thread through the dark. There are also bija mantra seed syllables. These are often one-sound expressions of specific energies. The syllable hum represents unwavering presence. Ah opens the heart. Om settles the crown and centers thought. These syllables can be used on their own, repeated slowly with the breath. One sound on the inhale, one on the exhale. This repetition gently guides the brain into alpha and theta states levels of consciousness associated with creativity, meditation, and deep rest. Using mantras in the evening creates a transition, a soft boundary between activity and surrender, between noise and stillness. Just as brushing your teeth cleans the body, mantras cleanse the subtle energy field. They wash away the residue of conversation, conflict, distraction, and doubt. You don't need to understand all their meanings. You only need to feel their vibration. Let them do their work without interference. Some people find it helpful to chant aloud for a few minutes, then continue silently as they lie down. The shift from sound to inner repetition mirrors the body's own descent into sleep. First, the senses are active, then they soften, then they disappear. If the mantra continues silently, it often accompanies you across that threshold. It becomes the last thought, the final rhythm, and the mind follows. This practice also carries over into dreams. A mantra held at the moment of falling asleep often reappears in the dream state. This has been used in certain Tibetan dream yoga practices to maintain lucidity, to ground awareness, even when the body rests. The sound becomes a bridge link between conscious and subconscious layers. Even if you don't remember dreaming, the presence of mantra shapes the quality of sleep. It makes it more integrated, more peaceful, less fragmented. You can also use mala strings of beads to guide the repetition. Each bead marks one recitation. This tactile element engages the body further. The fingers move slowly. The mind stays focused. The act becomes a ritual, a practice of attention, a way to embody stillness. Whether you use a full mantra or a single syllable, consistency matters. Repetition over days, weeks, and months build strength. The nervous system responds faster, the mind settles sooner. The body begins to associate the sound with rest. Eventually, just hearing or thinking the mantra brings a shift. The conditioned response becomes one of peace. This is not superstition. It is skillful means, tools shaped over centuries, not to mystify, but to soothe, to bring the scattered mind home, to give the body the signal it needs to rest, repair, and renew. It's also a practice of devotion, not to something external, but to presence itself, to truth, to that part of you that longs to be still, to be whole, to be quiet enough to hear the deeper rhythms of life. Let the mantra be your night prayer, your medicine, your return. Choose one that speaks to you. Let it enter slowly, gently, no force. Let it rise with the breath. Let it fall with the breath. Let it echo softly in the mind, and let it carry you into rest, not as a sleep technique, but as a path of returning. Returning to safety, to center, to the part of you that never needed fixing, only listening. Let that be the final sound before sleep. Let it soften the edges. Let it dissolve the noise. Let it guide you back, and let that vibration linger long after the voice is silent, long into the night, all the way into stillness. As the final sound of mantra fades, what remains is presence without effort. The nervous system has softened, the body has responded, and the mind begins to feel quieter than it has all day. But even in this stillness, something subtle can persist. A quiet tension, a hidden pressure, not from thought, not from noise, but from identity. A belief that lingers beneath the surface. I am someone who needs to sleep. This identity seems harmless at first. After all, everyone goes to bed with a desire for rest. But the moment this desire becomes entangled with self-image, tension follows. The idea that you must fall asleep, that sleep is something you are supposed to achieve, begins to shape your experience. Suddenly, rest becomes performance. The bed becomes a stage. The one lying down becomes a character called the sleeper, and the need to succeed in that role creates resistance where there should be release. This is where the Buddhist teaching of non-self becomes vital. Anatta, the understanding that there is no fixed, unchanging self, is not just a philosophical insight, it is a practical key to freedom. At night, when the mind is fragile and the body is tired, it is often the grasping at identity that blocks rest. The idea that, I can't sleep, I'm a bad sleeper, or I must fall asleep now or tomorrow will be ruined, tightens the mind. It turns rest into a goal, and the self into the one responsible for achieving it. Letting go of the self as sleeper means releasing the view that there is a doer behind the process of sleep. In reality, sleep is not something you perform, it is something that happens. Just as breathing occurs without effort, sleep arises from conditions. The body cools, the brain waves shift, the nervous system enters safety. These conditions are not summoned by identity. They unfold naturally when the mind stops interfering. The belief in a solid self, especially at bedtime, can be subtle. It may appear as a voice that says, I always wake up at this time, or I need this many hours to function, or I am someone with insomnia. These stories, even when based on past experiences, become limitations. They shape expectation, and expectation becomes stress. Stress contracts the body. Contraction prevents sleep. To practice non-self at night is not to deny experience. It is to meet it without ownership. If wakefulness is here, it is here. It doesn't belong to you. It doesn't define you. It doesn't mean anything about who you are. It is simply a state. Like clouds passing through an open sky, there is no sleeper who has failed. There is only a changing experience of body and mind. This perspective creates space. Instead of trying to fix the situation, you learn to watch it with curiosity. What is this sensation? What is this thought? What does it feel like when sleep doesn't come right away? You begin to see that the one watching is not the one who is suffering. The watcher is clear, calm, free from identity. Letting go of the self as sleeper also changes how you relate to time. Often, it is the clock that triggers identity. Watching the minutes pass, the mind begins to panic. It's already midnight. I'll never feel rested. I'll be exhausted tomorrow. These thoughts don't arise from the body, they arise from the self-concept. The belief that there is a version of you that must meet a specific standard. But the body doesn't operate through identity. It responds to conditions. And conditions improve when there is less pressure. When attention returns to breath, to sensation, to sound, without a narrative, the nervous system relaxes. Even if sleep does not arrive immediately, rest begins to occur. The muscles soften. The breath slows. Cortisol decreases. Healing happens, not because a self achieved it, but because awareness got out of the way. This is not passivity. It is deep wisdom. A surrender of the illusion of control, a willingness to be with what is, without trying to shape it into what should be. And paradoxically, this is the very mindset that makes rest possible. Non-self can also be practiced through language. The way you speak to yourself matters. Saying, "I can't sleep," reinforces identity. Saying, "Wakefulness is here," acknowledges reality without ownership. Saying, "I'm failing again," creates resistance. Saying, "The mind is active right now," creates space. This subtle shift in language reflects a deeper shift in view, from being the experiencer to being the space in which experience arises. The body responds to this shift. When identification drops, the signals of stress begin to fade. Muscles that were bracing unconsciously begin to let go. The breath, no longer monitored, finds its own rhythm. Thoughts, no longer fueled by fear, begin to dissolve. You may find that in these moments of release, sleep comes quietly. Not because you reached for it, but because you stopped grasping. And even if it does not come right away, you rest in awareness. You rest in being, not doing. That rest is nourishing. That rest is enough. Practicing non-self at bedtime also helps dismantle long-term sleep anxiety. For those who have struggled with rest over time, the self-concept becomes reinforced. I've never been a good sleeper. My body just doesn't know how. These beliefs become identities, but in the light of non-self, they are seen as patterns, not truths, not permanent. Just thoughts, just memories, just stories. And stories change. Every night is a new opportunity to meet the present without the past, without the layers of who you think you are, to drop into the breath, to sense the body, to see thought arise and fall, and to let go again and again. This is not detachment. It is presence without ownership. It is being with experience, fully, without needing to make it personal, without needing to make it proof of something, without turning it into another reason to struggle. This view also supports deeper compassion. When you stop identifying as the one who suffers, you can meet the suffering itself with kindness. You can place a hand on the heart. You can breathe into tension. You can whisper, "This too belongs," not to you, but to the unfolding nature of life. Sleep becomes less about control and more about relationship, a relationship with change, with impermanence, with the truth that no state, no thought, no feeling is final, that who you are is not fixed, but fluid. And from this fluidity comes peace. You don't need to become anything at night. Not a relaxed person, not a wise person, not even a mindful person. You are simply present, letting go of roles, letting go of outcomes, letting go of the sleeper entirely. And in that letting go, The body responds, the mind rests, awareness stays. This is not a new technique, it is a new way of seeing. A way that says, I am not the one who sleeps. I am the space in which sleep may or may not arise. And that space is already free, already whole, already at peace. When identity fades, the mind becomes still, no longer clinging to the role of the sleeper, no longer trying to manage rest. Awareness can finally remain untouched. In that openness, something interesting begins to happen. The body sleeps, but the mind continues. And in the absence of control, it reveals its deeper layers. It shows the unprocessed. It speaks through symbols. It moves without logic. This movement is what we call dreams. In Buddhist understanding, dreams are not random. They are not meaningless images produced by a tired brain. They are reflections, imprints of the mind's history, a mix of habit, emotion, karma, and unconscious perception. They arise from what has been left unresolved, from what has been deeply felt, or from what is still forming in subtle ways. Karma is not a mystical punishment. It is simply cause and effect. The patterns you reinforce through thought, emotion, and action do not disappear when the day ends. They carry into rest. And the dreaming mind, freed from the usual rules of reality, becomes a mirror. It reflects these causes back in symbolic language. Learning to read this language is not just interesting, it is liberating. The Buddha recognized that dreams can reveal the tendencies of the heart. In several early texts, dreams are taken seriously, not as prophecy, but as guidance. They show what the mind has absorbed, what the body still holds, what the heart has not yet released. When viewed clearly, dreams become part of the path. They become another place to observe the workings of mind. To interpret dreams through Buddhist insight, you begin not with symbols, but with feeling. Every dream carries an emotional tone. That tone is the key. It tells you what state the mind was in at the time of the dream. Was it agitated, afraid, confused, peaceful? The images may vary, but the mood is consistent. That mood is the first thread you follow. Once you've named the feeling, you look for its source, not by analyzing the dream like a puzzle, but by asking gentle questions. What in your day carried the same energy? What in your past has repeated this emotion? What thought or pattern could have given rise to this content? The goal is not to assign fixed meanings, but to understand your relationship to what appeared. For example, if the dream carried anxiety, notice how that same current moves through your waking life. If a particular figure appeared, an old friend, a stranger, a parent, task what they represent in your inner world, not who they are literally, but what they trigger emotionally. Perhaps they reflect a quality you reject, or a memory unresolved. Dreams often use people as stand-ins for deeper patterns. This is where karmic insight deepens. In Buddhist teaching, karma leaves traces not just in action, but in the subtle body. These traces, called samkaras or samskaras, are like grooves in the mind. Repeating a reaction deepens the groove. Over time, these grooves form mental tendencies, ways you interpret the world without realizing. Dreams often express these tendencies clearly. You see yourself running, hiding, fighting, longing, falling. These actions mirror inner habits. They reveal the grooves you've carved. Noticing these patterns is not about blame. It's about recognition. When you see how the dream echoes your habitual mind state, you become more free. You stop believing every thought. You stop assuming the dream is separate from your waking life. You begin to see both as arising from the same causes. Some dreams may feel random. Others may feel charged with meaning. Both are useful. In dreams that feel significant, you can ask, what aspect of myself is being shown here? Where do I feel resistance? Where do I feel release? If the dream felt liberating, what quality was present that allowed that? If the dream felt disturbing, what attachment was threatened? This process is not mental dissection, it is mindfulness in a different form. A soft awareness turned toward the inner world, a willingness to meet whatever arises, even if it doesn't make sense at first. Certain dreams come in cycles. The same scenario, the same challenge, repeating in different forms. These are especially valuable. They point to unresolved karmic residue, something in the mind that wants to be seen, not to punish you, but to offer another chance for release. Meeting these dreams with compassion changes the pattern. Awareness heals, not by changing the dream, but by changing how you relate to it. Keeping a dream journal can support this process, not to collect stories, but to observe tendencies. Write down the dream upon waking, before the mind edits or forgets. Include the feeling, the mood, the body's reaction. Over time, you'll notice what returns: the people, the places, the actions, and more importantly, the emotional patterns behind them. From this, you learn where your karma is strongest, where you are still grasping, where you are still avoiding, where forgiveness is needed, or courage, or letting go. Some dreams are vivid, others are vague. Some are chaotic, others are clear. Clarity in the dream may reflect clarity in the mind. Confusion may reflect unresolved conflict. Even nightmares have a place. They often carry energy that has been pushed down, fear that was never given voice. The appearance of fear in dreams is not failure. It is an invitation to meet the mind where it hides. Dreams can also be influenced by the final thoughts before sleep. This is why pre-sleep practice matters. If you enter sleep with agitation, that energy continues. If you enter with mindfulness, with mantra, with compassion, the mind carries those seeds into rest. This is not about control, but cultivation. Just as a farmer plants certain crops, you plant intentions. The dream is the field where they grow. In some Buddhist traditions, particularly Tibetan, dreams are used as preparation for death, because both are transitions. Both involve the dissolution of identity, the letting go of form, the movement into subtle experience. Dreams show how the mind behaves when the usual structure disappears. This insight is powerful. It teaches you how to let go while still present, how to stay aware even when clarity fades. Lucid dreaming, while not essential, can help deepen this understanding. Becoming aware inside the dream shows you directly that the dream is mind-created, that the figures, the landscape, the story are all projections. This realization, even once, can change how you view your waking thoughts. You begin to question their solidity, their truth, their permanence. But even without lucidity, dreams teach. They show you what the conscious mind avoids. They offer images when words are not enough. They bypass the rational and speak in metaphor. And metaphor, when met with openness, speaks truth. You may not understand every dream. That's not the goal. The goal is relationship, presence, curiosity. Let each dream be a message from the deeper mind. Let it speak. Let it echo. Let it show you who you've been and who you might become. Use the teachings to support interpretation. Recall the three poisons: greed, hatred, and delusion. See how they appear in your sleep, not as sins, but as habits. Recall the qualities of the awakened mind: generosity, compassion, clarity. See where they shine through, even in subtle ways. Let your dreams become part of your path. Let them guide your attention. Let them soften your self-concepts. Let them reveal the karmic echoes you've ignored. And in the morning, don't rush past them. Hold them gently. Ask what they touched, what they stirred, what they offered. Even a brief reflection can plant insight. Then let the dream go. You are not the dream, but the dream can help you remember who you are without the roles, without the masks, without the noise. Let it be a teacher. Let it remind you, nothing arises without cause, and nothing arises without meaning. Your sleeping mind is still speaking. You only need to listen. The inner world never sleeps. Even when the body rests, the mind continues to echo its stories through dreams. You've seen how those echoes reveal karma, how they expose patterns and offer insight. But mind is not isolated. It doesn't float in space untouched. It is shaped continuously by contact, by what is seen, touched, and sensed. What surrounds you matters. The space you rest in becomes part of your practice, whether you realize it or not. The mind responds to the environment without needing permission. A cluttered room can stir tension even if you're not looking directly at it. A dark, heavy corner can influence the tone of thought. The body picks up subtle signals, and the nervous system adjusts accordingly. This is not philosophy, it is lived experience, which means your sleep space is not neutral. It is either supporting tranquility or disrupting it. In Buddhist teachings, mindfulness is not limited to internal states. It extends to the environment. Awareness of posture, breath, speech, and surroundings are all considered essential. Where you rest, how you treat that space, what it contains, and how it is arranged, these details shape the quality of your sleep and the tone of your practice. Turning your bed into a sacred altar is not about ritual for the sake of beauty. It's about creating conditions for peace. A sacred space is a supportive space. It reminds the body that rest is safe. It signals the mind to release control. It grounds your nightly practice in intention. This begins with the placement of the bed. In traditional Buddhist and Eastern spatial teachings, orientation matters. The head pointing east or north is often recommended. East aligns with the rising sun, symbolizing clarity and renewal. North carries associations with stability and stillness. These orientations may seem symbolic, but the act of choosing a direction brings consciousness to something otherwise passive. It transforms the bed from an object into an intentional container for rest. Lighting also matters. Harsh light confuses the body's circadian rhythm. Warm, dim lighting in the evening signals the brain to slow down. It tells the pineal gland to release melatonin. Candles, soft lamps, or salt lights encourage a more natural descent into sleep. And when combined with silence or gentle sound, the space begins to hold presence. The nervous system picks up on this subtle harmony. It slows, it releases. Color is another element that can shape experience. Cool earth tones, soft whites, and muted natural shades